rip the thing out myself.
No, wait!
Hey, you. Finally awake.
To say Cyberpunk was one of the most hyped video games since, well, Skyrim, is probably a decent comparison. Well, that's it, I'm done here. Know about when Cyberpunk released. Some people enjoyed it, some people did not, but most can say that it was a game that wasn't as polished as it should be on release. Well, now 2 years later, after updates and a pretty damn good Netflix series that totally didn't remind me to come back and take a look at this game, how is Cyberpunk 2077 in the end of 2022 at the start of 2023?
It's good. Very, very good. Van Johnson good.
If you didn't play Cyberpunk 2077, what is it? Well, surely you played Skyrim, yeah? Everybody played Skyrim, and it's basically that. But rather than the world of Elder Scrolls with magic and dragon and elves, Cyberpunk is a futuristic world like Futurama and Blade Runner merging together with adult advertising everywhere. While yes, not exactly the same as Skyrim, it is basically a game where you can follow the story or you can do whatever you want. I also originally covered it on this channel as well when it released, so if you want you can go back and take a look at that old video, but apologies up front as I feel like I've gotten better with script writing and editing since then.
Let's cut to the chase. What do you got for me?
Anyway, Cyberpunk released with some issues and bugs and general unfinished gameplay mechanics, but after multiple updates and a sweet animated series, returning back to Cyberpunk 2077 felt like sipping a good whiskey after a frustrating day at work. And what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is, I can cover games like Gotham Knights, or I can hate myself playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and yes, I'm not covering that heap of shit on this channel, or I can get frustrated playing F122 against morons who don't know how to drive, you know who you are. But Cyberpunk 2077 is just an ease. I can switch my brain off, enjoy this great world that has been created, and have a different experience each time, or feel like I was having a different experience each time. I can do something different and just sort of roleplay and pretend that I'm a bit of a bounty hunter. Now, the first time I played this game through, I played as a nomad, and I had a fantastic ending that made me want to flat retire the character, as they had a great send-off. And with me generally moving from game to game, I'd not had time to sit down and go back to Cyberpunk. But damn it, I made time for this.
I want details, and I want them right now. I don't have a job, I have no place to go, you're not in the mood? Well, you get in the mood!
So returning to Cyberpunk now at the end of 2022, I decided to try and play as a corpo. I also tried changing my weapon preference from last time's playthrough as well. I got some different upgrades and I approached the main story of the game a little differently. Now, previously when I first played the game, I tried to play as a nomad and tried to make myself as a Han Solo styled character, but this time around I wanted to go completely different with how I normally play shooters. From the set out, I wanted to use samurai swords and basically look professional in suits as well, and I did a lot of extra side missions and fun missions and avoided the main core story. With this though, I treated the 3-hour intro a little differently to how it's normally handled, and heads up, I will be going into some spoilers here for this video too. For example, my main mission objective was to find as much money as I could before I started the mission that kills Jackie and gives us Johnny Silverhands. The game has been out for 2 years, and I think it's safe to say that yes, one of the greatest side characters we've had in games dies, and yes, it's still heartbreaking.
Hold on to it. For me.
But before that mission, I did as many side missions that I could and sold everything so I could pay off Victor the Ripper Doc, so when the part in the time comes where he saves your life after you've been shot in the head, I didn't feel like I already owed him money on top of him saving my life.
You do have insurance, don't you?
Yes.
Well, that's wonderful.
Secondly, I was doing fun side missions that yes, I just flat ignored when I was playing Cyberpunk the first time round. I found one that had me in damn stitches with someone upgrading and making their dick bigger, but it had a technical issue to say the least, and his genitals were in severe pain. Now, as this was a side mission, every small job was held to the standard of driving someone with a malfunctioning robot dick to a doctor.
Satisfaction guaranteed, they said.
Another thing I overly didn't take a look at with my first playthrough was Cyber Psychos, and the Netflix series sort of reminded me to take a look at this as well, which basically had me acting a bit like a bounty hunter and taking out targets. Now, each psycho felt incredibly unique, and they had their own overarching mini story or setting when it was around them, and it was flat fucking terrifying at one point, where I ran out of ammo and I had to equip a samurai sword to take out the Cyber Psycho, which I flat didn't want to use against her.
Looks like that guy just killed you.
You'll also get a fairly decent amount of money when you do these. You'll get some weapons, or you'll get some gear that you can steal from dead bodies in the area in general, as well as the atmosphere that isn't as overly there with the general story. It's just a fun little side mode. Now, something I didn't cover on my initial review, as I didn't want to spoil it for anyone, is the character of Johnny Silverhands being a chip in your brain that's slowly killing you and trying to take over your body, which is a great twist. During the main mission on my first playthrough, I had some cool moments with Johnny and having some fun, but doing side missions and random encounters was kinda cool. The story of Johnny Silverhands is pretty damn good and somewhat emotional. It's not as hard hitting as Jackie's death, but it's still actually pretty good. And this time around, I was enjoying spending more time with Silverhands. Oh yes, there's also an option to change what he looks like from the main menu too, if you want to get around that. Now yes, I wanted to answer the question of, is this game good now? Not, Dudi, what did you do on your second playthrough? But the way the game runs now compared to the way the game ran on launch, I found myself actively wanting to go out and do side missions, actively go out and extend and enjoy my time on this playthrough and the experience with Cyberpunk now because, well, the game works. But what about bugs? Is the game 100% bug-free? No, there's no such thing as a bug-free game, I'm telling you right now. There are small things here and there that had me chuckle, but nothing that would break the gameplay or my immersion. Now, my game didn't crash once, and anything that can be considered as a bug didn't change the flow of combat, story, or anything, at least in my experience. But one key test or check or something I deliberately looked out for when it came to bugs in Cyberpunk was an early mission with Jackie that basically teaches you how to shoot, how to hide, and the mission ends with you and Jackie taking a lift back down to your car. Now, on launch, Jackie would walk straight through the lift doors and hear the doors opened. You know, it's something small, and yes, it's not a huge bug, but for me, this acted as a bit of a signal for me showing that yes, some attention has been put into the game post-launch. The only issue I had wasn't really a gameplay issue or anything, but anytime I tried to stream Cyberpunk on Twitch so people could hang out and see what I was doing, it would stutter and freeze pretty hard on the stream, but gameplay-wise, it wasn't stuttering or anything. So if that's all you wanted to know, well, I guess you can stop watching now. Hell, you might have already stopped watching, which, yeah, I don't like the sound of my voice anyways.
That's right. Gosh.
But in short, yeah, the game has been improved, it's better to play now, but going forward, here are some things that I'd like to see in the future of Cyberpunk, so stick around if you want to hear some potentially questionable ideas, I guess. Now, there are some things that either in future DLC or expansion that we are getting in 2023, whatever you really want to call it, that I'd like to see in Cyberpunk. Whether we get it or not, who knows, but these are just some sort of wish list items. Firstly, watching the Cyberpunk Netflix show, for starters, it's a fantastic show, go check it out, but we see characters basically stop time and move so fast that time stands still, where you can sort of do that here in this game, but it doesn't really convey it to the extent that the Netflix show depicts it as, and it would be kind of cool if you could actually use these abilities. Another idea is that any modification that we make to our character physically should change our character. So, for example, if you upgrade your eyes, the HUD changes and your character's eyes change when you look in a mirror or use photo mode. So that it physically changes our body and it's not just an upgrade that overly didn't really do anything. Like sure, I can, take more damage with a shoulder enhancement, but when I'm wearing a singlet, he just has, well, normal shoulders. Speaking of which, we can change what our character is wearing, and now there is a transmog option too, which is a fantastic addition. Now, while we can see our characters when driving cars or riding motorbikes, I wouldn't mind having a third-person mode or seeing our character in some moments like cutscenes. In the original game, yeah, you made a character and that was really it, where now here, with some updates, we can change and alter our character a bit more after we've already made them, but what's the point of making characters and changing outfits and even picking what our eyes look like if we don't overly see them? Now, if we don't get a third-person mode, which is fair enough because it is probably a fair bit of work, but future story cutscenes for DLCs, maybe give us cutscenes something similar to, say, Doom Eternal, where we would see the Doomslayer in the cutscenes and then it would transition into first person. Sidebar 2, again, this is all just sidebar shit anyways, but it would be kind of cool if we could see our weapons on our characters in the loadout screen, so For example, if you're using a samurai sword, your character has a sheath on their back or on their waist, or if you've got a pistol, they've got a holster. So when you change your weapons, you're physically actually pulling them out from their holsters. What it also needs, and hopefully we get with the new DLC story that we'll be releasing soon, is the ability to fly. We're kind of introduced to flying vehicles at the start of the game as a corpo, which is kind of cool, but you also can't use them. You're stuck on the ground. Yes, you've got cars and motorbikes and quick travel, but for a future city, come on, we gotta be flying, dude. The driving controls, I will say, for Cyberpunk 2, at least using a mouse and keyboard, actually felt really smooth compared to when I first played this using a controller. But maybe one of the main reasons you checked out this video is, what is Cyberpunk like now? Should I play it again? Should I buy it? And should I play it for the first time through? I actually saw this on sale for $40 in my local store, and I thought that was a fucking bargain. And in my opinion, yes, you should 100% go back or play this game. The game is fun, Johnny Silverhands as a character is pretty damn cool, and the idea of him being a construct in your mind is kind of fun. The world is brilliant, alive, but also dead at the same time, if that makes sense. There's a hustle and bustle of the city, but there's also dead areas outside of the city that gives you more of a Borderlands vibe to it. If you've already played Cyberpunk and it wasn't your thing, is there a reason to go back? Well, that depends. Skyrim has heaps of classes and options for replayability, while Cyberpunk has these options, though not as many as Skyrim. But if you like going back to games and changing your options or trying a different playstyle or upgrade, then yeah, I recommend it. If you're looking for more single player missions or something new to do, maybe just wait for the DLC when that releases in 2023. Cyberpunk is obviously available now, and it's up to you whether you want to go back and check it out, but if you ask me, this game has a permanent space on my PC.
How's our ride looking?
Tip-top, though alas, we are being pursued.
Sweet fucking Jesus!
Please remain calm.
Calm!
Roadblock ahead.